Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
There's insanity in the control room.
Everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. It's Monday. Got a great new show for y'all today. Lots of insanity in the news. I actually missed Friday, so I got a bunch of stuff it's probably been covered to death everywhere else. I still want to talk about it because there's fun stuff. We got Mike Pillow. He's back. Well, he never really left, but we got a story about Mike Pillow. We got Big Bird apparently is full of the communisms. Yes, I know. We got Marjorie Taylor Greene comparing the Capitol rioters, their stint in Washington jail. She's going to compare it to Gitmo. Oh, that's fun. So obviously, you know she's wrong. We've got Papa John Schnatter. He's back. And apparently the day of reckoning has come. I'm going to show you that. Fun. And then we may or may not get to a Joe Biden farting story. Oh, that's fun. So lots and lots of interesting stuff on today's show. So anyway, yeah, please like and share the stream. If you haven't already, very important that you do so. Thank you, Indisputable TYT, for the raid. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you for coming from, Rashad Ritchie's show and sticking around. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Is Bannon in jail yet? Asked Dango Bangle over Super Chat. If not, replace Garland. I agree. Like, you think Merrick Garland was going to do anything? He wasn't going to do anything if he was, put on the Supreme Court. He's a corporate, and that's the thing that frustrates me, just to go back on a little bit of a tangent here. I remember when Mitch McConnell blocked this guy for a year. This was Obama's Supreme Court nomination. And I was like, it's not even the fact that he's radical at all. He's not. He's a corporatist. And he's not going to really be, super different to any other, corporatist, so-called center, moderate judge, whatever, because he's going to rule on the side of corporations. Now, of course, he'll be different on the social stuff, which unfortunately we have Amy Coney Barrett and all those, ridiculous people that are on the Supreme Court now. But I didn't really expect Merrick Garland, to be like, oh, wow, a progressive judge. And look, judges we know shouldn't be partisan, blah, blah, blah. We don't live in those times. Wishful thinking. Of course, they're going to be partisan. Of course, they're going to have their own point of view. But I'd rather have judges with our point of view as opposed to their point of view. Or I should say the point of view of corporations. Okay, anyway. Garland was picked for the Supreme Court because Republicans already liked him, Sister Averaging Wolverine. And yet, none of them supported him at all. Kind of ironic. It's almost as if they'll never pick somebody supported by the Democrats, unless it's, of course, it's one of them, a Republican, federalist judge, whatever. Because Democrats will be like, oh, I can support this person, maybe. We'll give them a fair shake and a fair chance. Republicans are like, oh, yeah, a Democrat picked them? No. Not in your fucking life. I know. I nominate Jeff to be the face of the Replace Garland movement. My face is not going anywhere near Merrick Garland. Let's just say that. Shouldn't be the face of anything. What are you talking about? All right, anyway. I appreciate it, though. Did Garland wear a tan suit? Maybe. All right, let's get to the stories, though. ACA was a Republican idea. See how that went. Caledon with an excellent point there. Yeah, it was Romney Care in Massachusetts. And they're like, Obama's like, okay, we're not going to do a public option. We're not going to do, obviously, a single-payer system. Are you kidding me? All the pharmaceutical money that I take? No, we're going to do the Mitt Romney Care. Hey, and we'll get Republicans. And, of course, there's Joe Lieberman and all that blocking the public option, you know, being basically today's Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Yeah. And this is how we don't get nice stuff. This is why we, part of why we lose. But anyway, let's get to the first story. Let's make fun of Mike Pillow. As usual. Okay. Not only is Mike Pillow wanting to ruin your Thanksgiving, but he also has some plans for Black Friday, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
I've had
God
over
gave me
40
this
pizzas
platform.
in the last 30.
I already know I'm going to win.
China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
Okay. Already.
There's insanity in the control room.
Yeah. That was a mess up, but that's okay. So Mike Lindell, he's back, and he's planning to air a new 96-hour election fraud extravaganza that will run from midnight of the Wednesday before Thanksgiving through midnight on Sunday. So now all day, your racist Republican uncle, instead of watching football, because, you know, football, the NFL's too woke now, they can tune in to see the Pillow Guy rant about non-existent voter fraud in the 2020 election with deceptively edited numbers and so-called factual information, which isn't actually factual at all, which will culminate in a lawsuit Lindell claims will be voted 9-0 by the Supreme Court to hear, and then will somehow lead to the pulling down of the election. And of course, that's what he claims. Fun. And of course, he says, we're going to show every single piece of evidence. Okay, look, you've had a year, just about, to show the evidence. Oh, I guess that what that means is that we're going to have to tune in to watch while being bombarded with MyPillow advertising, right? Well, he says, no, we're not going to run it at MyPillow advertisements, but hold on to that for a minute, okay? Now, of course, there might be one small issue with the timing. You see, America loves its consumerism. In fact, only in this country will we see people trample over each other to get $30 off on a big screen. So now the same people, ironically, that usually wait in line for hours and hours outside of Walmart are going to have to choose between watching Mike Pillow relitigate the election over and over again or reenact the Capitol riot in order to get a discount Alexa. Yeah. Now, of course, while Lindell is dragging this entire thing out, this whole election conspiracy, the January 6th committee has actually taken an interest in Mike Lindell. So this is according to HuffPost. Lindell appears to be among the long list of Trump allies and staff of interest to January 6th committee. In a section of the August 25th letter from the Select Committee to the National Archives titled Information Donald Trump Received Following the Election Regarding the Election Outcome and What He Told the American People About the Election, that's a very long title memo, material to and from Lindell is among 7 categories of records the committee has requested. Okay, fun. From April 1st, 2020 through January 2021, all documents and communications relating to challenging the validity of the 2020 election to and from or mentioning Mike Lindell, the request reads. Interesting. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of stupid documentation to read through, lots of unhinged conspiracies, not unlike, of course, what I've been talking about and covering for quite some time, for almost last year. So Lindell talked to HuffPost, and this is funny. So he says, well, I haven't been contacted by the committee, and I could care less. Okay. Now, of the 2-page letter he delivered to Trump on January 15th, 9 days after the Capitol riot, obviously, that's among the material turned over. And he asks, what does that have to do with me? Well, it's your letter, dude. I mean, you were there, you met with Trump, and you were there supposedly to give him, quote unquote, the evidence that you won't give us, apparently. And that of course, this is supposed to be evidence that China hacked the election. Oh, it's the Chinese, right? But also handed over an envelope. He said it was given to him by 2 lawyers to give to Trump. He declined to tell HuffPost the names of those lawyers or any sort of information. None of your business. Are you out of your mind? I don't know what the letter was in the letter. It was given to me in confidence. I had never read it. I had never looked at it. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if they'll get the letter. Lindell also claims that he'll have a ton of state attorneys general signing on to his lawsuit, but refused to name any of them because obviously, of course. He says, I'm not going to give you their names. Are you kidding? Adding that all of them would sign the lawsuit on November 23rd. Now here's the thing. So he doesn't understand how the Supreme Court works. None of them seem to understand how any of this works. You can't just go to the Supreme Court and say, I've got a lawsuit. Take it up. No, you usually have to go through a series of appeals, lower court rulings, and then eventually it gets passed to the Supreme Court. They just don't take randos. Even pillow randos, okay? Nonetheless, Lindell thinks, oh no, they're going to take it up, and they're going to, oh yeah, and then they're going to vote to cast over the election and completely redo it. Here's what he says. I really think that they're going to accept it. 9-0. Require a new election across the board. Declare the 2020 vote void and order new elections across the board. You know what? Considering how low Joe Biden's approval rating is right now, and how much a failure the Democrats have been, maybe we should. I mean, just get like a progressive in there, and then have him wipe the floor with the Republican candidate. Just get a fresh start. Fresh start on this, away from this fresh hell. But of course, that's not going to happen because none of this is real. Nothing that Lindell or Trump or the Republicans have come up with when it comes to voter fraud is real at all. And by the way, what little actual fraud that we found, there's no mass voter fraud, but there has been voter fraud found. Guess what? It's Republicans. Like 99.9% of it has been done by Republicans. And I'm just saying, voter fraud as a whole, in the 2020 election, as far as I know, 100% of Republicans are the ones doing voter fraud. By the way, Glenn Youngkin's son in Virginia tried to vote. He's 17. He got turned away at the polls. So, come on. Because Donald Trump said vote 2 times. That is true. And people listened to him. And they did. All right, so he also claimed, Lindell did, that Donald Trump won Arizona by 250,000 votes. This election was stole. When HuffPost asked how the paper ballot recount in Georgia that confirmed Biden's win there was compatible with his computer hacking theory, Lindell grew angry and hung up. Sad baby. I think he got triggered. It might have been triggered there. So now I mentioned that he was not going to advertise during his 96-hour bullshit-a-thon. Maybe, but he actually might be up to something else. Now, Lindell has a social media site, Frank Speech, right? I don't know who Frank is. I don't know why he's got speech. I don't know why Lindell and Frank or whatever, what they're doing, okay? But a Frank Speech. So now he launched this site to showcase his Cyber Fail Symposium. But in the following weeks and months, something interesting has been noted. And he's actually used the cell phone numbers he collected from those who signed up to advertise pillows, sheets, towels, slippers, and other sleep-related items. In fact, one text message last week, for example, told recipients to watch Lindell being interviewed on his webcast that evening and then finished with, "Standard My Pillows, $69.98, sale $19.98, mypillow.com, whatever." He's collecting the phone numbers, probably email addresses, whatever he can in order to sell people pillows. Because of course he is. On the one hand, he's filling people full of lies and then taking advantage of those people by selling overly expensive garbage pillows. It's a grift fit for Trump. I'm actually kind of impressed by this. I didn't think Lindell had it in him. But no, turns out he's actually, pretty good at cashing in on morons. And so here's the conservative hierarchy, right? So on the conservative hierarchy, you got smart people at the top. This is the business class in the Republican sphere. These are the people who know there's peddling and selling bullshit and taking advantage of dumber people. And so on the top, you got the grifters that are screwing over people who are slightly dumber. And then those people screw over people who are more dumb. And then more dumb. And it goes on until the people at the bottom getting screwed over the most because they're the most stupid. I pretty much described this as the Republican pyramid scheme. That's it. That's a scheme. That's what's going on here in a nutshell. Now, Lindell is obviously probably third tier dumb, maybe third or fourth tier. You know what? I'm going to have to get into this. I'm going to have to create a whole tier of stupid to show this pyramid. But again, back to Lindell and his timing. Well, good luck with not only trying to compete with Thanksgiving, the real war on Thanksgiving, but also trying to compete with the biggest chud shopping holiday of the year. I make it a point to not really ever get involved in shopping on Black Friday. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's consumerism, like celebrated consumerism, and people are trampling each other and getting hurt and killed over this. I think it's unnecessary and ridiculous. So go ahead and have fun with that. While I sit home and not pay attention. Let's just say that. Okay. F tier to S tier. Says Scott Bloom in the chat. Okay. Now, we should probably go to talking about how Big Bird is apparently a communist. Because that's always fun, right? Conservatives now have a new/old target in their culture war against vaccines. Big Bird. Big Bird. In a tweet, which is, again, ironic because we're dealing with birds here, Big Bird. The fictional children's character on Sesame Street had promoted child vaccination, which generally I would agree is a good thing. Now, they said it by saying, I got the COVID-19 vaccine today. My wing is feeling a little sore, but it'll give my body an extra protective boost that keeps me and others healthy. Miss Erica Hill even said that I've been getting vaccines since I was a little bird. I had no idea. Elmo, another Muppet character, of course, added that he was happy to learn that friends can get the COVID-19 vaccine now, and soon Elmo can too. Well, that's great. But of course, who's going to get mad? MAGA chuds. We're going to fly into a frothing rage. Led by, of course, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. As usual. He says, government propaganda for your 5-year-old. Propaganda. Not only that, but you have it led to Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers tweeting out insane things. Big Bird is a communist. Yeah, a communist. And I think followed by, probably my favorite, Paul Gosar. Is Big Bird a commie? As Wendy Rogers posited. 1. Is over 50 but has no wife and prefers to hang around kids. Oh boy. Part of a flock of believers who refer to themselves as comrade. Lives off government handouts. Engages in agitprop and believes in coercion. Oh, verdict. True, Big Bird is a communist. Wow. Swear to God, these people, holy shit, they're a parody of themselves. I mean, look, I don't. It's difficult to make fun of them anymore because everything that outlandish enough that you could think of, that like no rational person would say, they've already said it. They've already said it. And so you're like, oh, what's the craziest thing that we could come up with that, you would think that they would say, oh, turns out there's already a tweet. There's always a tweet. Always a tweet. I mean, all you could really do is sit back and just admire the level of total brain rot these people have. I mean, I would say that they have brain worms, but they've all supposedly been taking ivermectin for that, so that's out. That would get rid of any worms. They're all dewormed now. But there's more. Now you have Tennessee Republican congressional candidate Robbie Starbuck. Oh, that's such a cool name too. But he's a chud. He suggested that Big Bird would die from the vaccine. Again, fake character. And not only that, but not real. People are not dying from the vaccine. It's insane. But says 7 days later, big blood clot bird is served. You also have Fox News. This is contributor Lisa Booth accusing Big Birds of brainwashing children who are not at risk from COVID, saying that it is quote unquote twisted. So let's hold on here. Okay, again, this is basically the news that 5 to 11-year-olds are cleared to get the Pfizer BioNTech COVID vaccine. Generally, you think that's a good thing. That means that you get children inoculated and you can open up the schools and kids can go back to school. But no, this has turned into more culture war bullshit. But here's the thing. Let's set the record straight, okay? Just because children have less risk than adults of serious illness from COVID-19, that doesn't mean that there is zero risk. Children do get sick from COVID-19, and yes, some children, a small percentage, have died as a result of complications involving COVID-19. Again, it's a smaller amount than of adults, but that doesn't mean that there is no risk. And here you have conservatives out there saying, no risk, no, so we shouldn't have masks, we shouldn't have vaccines, we should send them all in, and without any protection, because now this is not about facts, it's about a culture war issue. And that's what's going on. So in my mind, it's like, okay, since there is risk, why not protect them and other children and other people who the children will come in contact with? Smart people would. But anti-vaxxers are not known for being smart. And by the way, let me make a distinction here. Okay, there are anti-vaxxers and that there are vaccine hesitant people. There's a difference there. Okay, so vaccine hesitant are people that generally don't know any better. They've been flooded with general disinformation as well as information, and there's people that they're not sure who to believe. And so they're thinking, well, wow, there's so much here. I don't know what's going on. I think generally these people are good people who are preyed on by grifters and people who have chosen to play politics with the vaccines. I don't have an issue with the vaccine hesitant. I think that, these are people that you can, if you have factual information on your side and you take them aside and you talk to them and you listen to their concerns and generally you come back with good information that alleviates those concerns. And then they understand like, oh, okay. So I guess the vaccine is a good thing. Great. So those are the people that are fine. Now, anti-vaxxers, of course, these are mainly grifters or insane conspiracy theorists. Okay. And most likely, by the way, most of these people already have gotten the vaccine anyway. So they're not really, in real danger of dying from COVID-19 because they've already gotten vaccinated, but they go out there and make a living telling you to not get vaccinated because it's, again, part of their culture war, okay? And so you're not going to get through to them for obvious reasons, which is why, unfortunately, you do need mandates. Why? Because, well, the whole purpose of mandates, yes, is generally to encourage people to get vaccinated. How does it do that? Well, it makes life so annoying for people who are not vaccinated that they decide, okay, it's not worth it. Fine, I'll go and get vaccinated. So, and of course, that would help the pandemic end so that we can end up living with, at least living with COVID and not having it kill so many people. And that's what certain places now that have very high vaccination rates, but still cases of COVID, that's what they're experiencing now. They can live with COVID, and yes, they may have increased cases of COVID, but not increased deaths. And so that's essentially what we're going to see for the future, okay? Now, I wish we could eradicate it, but at this point, I don't know, because we've got Delta, we've got Delta Plus, we got vaccine, obviously, refusal from the Republican Party. Over half of all Republicans say, no, we're not going to get it. And then, of course, you have the issue with any vaccine, breakthrough infections. And so I see this ending up being an endemic thing that, comes around. Maybe it's seasonal, like the flu. I don't know. Honestly, I think, though, we've had our chance to stop it, and I think we missed that boat, unfortunately. And it really makes me nervous, considering how a lot of us looked at this from the left as a trial run for our response on climate change. And as a trial run, not good. It's not looking good, folks. And of course, a lot of that is thanks to the right wing and their network of grifters and the overwhelming desire to own the libs, even if it kills us all. Yikes. We failed miserably, says S-Flume85 in the chat. I put it a little bit nicer, but sure. Yeah, Tia Wheeler says, sorry, but the virus isn't going anywhere. It'll be around for a long time. Unfortunately, that is what I see happening, and it sucks. But look, if we all get vaccinated, then at least it's going to reduce the amounts of deaths from COVID-19. And that's really, I guess, the biggest point here and the best point. All right. Go to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Failure is a modern American tradition. True. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene continues to defend the jailed Capitol rioters as martyrs being unjustly imprisoned by the state for the crime of being a true patriot. Here she is on Steve Bannon's podcast last week.
Last night, I finally got into the deplorable jail, the D.C. jail, where these people are being held for months on end in conditions like I've never seen in my life. I want to tell you, the homeless people in D.C. that are sitting out there living rent-free on the curbside have it far better than these people sitting in jail. The people down at Gitmo, terrorists that have killed our people, killed our military, blown them to pieces, and want every American dead, are living in better conditions than these people in this D.C. jail.
Okay, whoa, hold on. Right, okay, there's a lot there to break down. And that's just the first 30 seconds. We've got another clip after this, but, oh my God, deplorable conditions. Homeless people have it better than the people with shelter? Because they're living rent-free in the streets. Yeah, well, they're living rent-free on the streets because they can't afford a home. They can't afford the rent. I think there's a difference here. You're not quite getting it. I mean, and by the way, look at that. The homeless people, they got it so good compared to my chud Capitol rioter friends. Look at these homeless people, they're not paying rent. God. Okay, so that's ridiculous. Okay, so look, for one, prison is not a good place. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I shouldn't even have to say that. Our carceral system here in America is terrible, especially compared to the rest of the world. Prison conditions are just horrifying, right? Now, as far as that is concerned, do you see Marjorie Taylor Greene ever speaking up for the rest of the prisoners who are not Capitol rioters and maybe, you know, using her power as a legislator to try to get better accommodations for all prisoners? You know, yo, man, deplorable conditions in our jails. Who would have thought? Maybe we should actually make conditions better for people who are in jail. But no, she doesn't. I actually do believe in not only prison, but criminal justice reform. Obviously, I think we should focus more, on rehabilitation and reduce and eventually eliminate recidivism. There are other prison systems in other countries that do a far better job at rehabilitating prisoners and maintaining small, very, very small numbers of inmates. But here in America, we just throw people in prison for everything, even for debt. Debtors' prisons, they're back. And so here's we do all that. And not only that, but we've also created a for-profit model in imprisoning people. That's insane. Insane. We also have a drug war that, throws a lot of people into the prison system who are nonviolent offenders for possessing, things like marijuana. Just absolute ridiculousness. Terrible. Terrible. And so, look, if we actually dealt with some of those issues, we would actually have less need for prisons in general. And that would be a good thing. Now, that said, let's talk about Gitmo for a second, okay? So now Gitmo, you heard her, she said, it's full of terrorists. They want to kill us and they want to bomb us and they want to blow us all to pieces and they get treated better. No, that's not true at all. First, at the beginning of last year, Amnesty International released a report about massive human rights abuses going on at Guantanamo Bay, still, and notes that victims of torture are held with inadequate medical care indefinitely and in the absence of fair trials, and even those who were cleared for release, who have been cleared for release, that were innocent, have remained incarcerated for years on end. Many of these released prisoners, by the way, who had been released from Guantanamo, were innocent and had complained of being beaten, being, sleep deprived, being put in positions, in uncomfortable positions, in prolonged constraint, prolonged hooding, which is, of course, sensory deprivation, cultural and sexual humiliation, forced enemas, rectal feeding, forced injections, and other physical and psychological, torture during their detention. Now, is any of that happening in Washington, D.C. to the Capitol rioters? Is any of that happening? Give me one credible story of a Capitol rioter getting a tube pushed up his butt. Can you? Can you? No, not at all. And by the way, I think we should all be outraged if that were happening. Well, guess what? It is happening, but not in the DC jails. It's happening to Muslims in Guantanamo. Yeah. Now, on Tuesday, an inspection of the DC jail found that the conditions were sufficient, despite complaints. But again, the caucasity, right? These people are used to having everything handed to them. Again, these are white, generally upper class, suburban Republicans that even in some cases flew to DC on their private jets. They get to take days off because a lot of them own businesses and had money. Oh, but Jeff, you understand, they had money troubles. Oh, so sad. Anybody who's had money trouble, what, can you just invade the Capitol? If you've had a couple of problems with not paying your taxes? No, you're not allowed to do that. Not a good excuse. Not an excuse at all. But understand, though, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ilk do not care about innocent Muslims being held in Guantanamo, or about black people held in prisons, or the school-to-prison pipeline. Only about their chud friends who tried to overthrow an election for Trump and ended up actually getting only about a slap in the wrist. Really? Couple months in jail? That's it? That's it. And I understand, like, not all the cases have gone to court yet, and they eventually will. And there's some, that are facing some serious charges. But we've seen a lot of very, very not serious charges and very, very light sentences as a result. But anyway, before I go on, I got another video of Marjorie Taylor Greene. It gets worse.
It's beyond anything I've ever seen, and every American in this country should be outraged at what's happening. I don't care how you vote. You should be outraged and disgusted that our government has turned into some kind of political weapon that tortures people in jail and wants to re-educate them and make them denounce the president that they love and denounce the country that they love, and wants to tear them down and beat them because they sing the national anthem every night at 9 p.m.
They cry and sing the national anthem after being horribly beaten every single night. Press X to doubt. I am hammering that button. The re-education camps. Really? What re-education? What is she even talking about? What? No, the best part here is, again, the theme of the day is irony. Okay? Our government has become a political weapon that tortures people. Oh, really? You just figured that out? Really? Really? You might want to ask Chelsea Manning or Stephen Donziger. I mean, okay. So, any chuds that are watching, that are hate watching right now, I'm going to tell you the story of Donziger. Okay? Real quick. Stephen Donziger is a lawyer who was, like, literally prosecuted Chevron. And won a case about pollution. I know you don't care about Ecuador. If you're conservative, you don't care about pollution or indigenous tribes, whatever. But they won in a court of law. But Chevron decided instead of paying what they owed in damages, they took Donziger to court. Okay. In fact, in 2014, a corrupt federal judge, Louis Kaplan, found Donziger and some of his Ecuadorian allies liable for RICO laws, that's racketeering, bribery, and fraud, based on false information from a corrupt Ecuadorian judge who admitted he was coached by Chevron to lie. They had to go through and do it 53 times to coach his statement, to get it right. And of course, in exchange, Chevron allowed him and his family to move to America. Kaplan then asked a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York to put Donziger on trial for criminal contempt connected to the original conviction. They refused, so Kaplan literally picked an attorney from a private firm who had, you guessed it, Chevron as a client. They prosecuted Danziger without a jury, by the way. And this whole thing, incredibly shady. And so they maneuvered in a way that eliminated the jury, the right to trial by jury, which means Kaplan had the sole decision to decide Danziger's fate. As a result, Danziger, he's going to jail for 6 months after spending over 2 years in house arrest. So do you want a case to get outraged about? That's a real case to get outraged about, not your dipshit Capitol rioters. But of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's not going to talk about Danziger. Why? Because it's an environmental lawyer taking on a gigantic oil company. And because it's actual injustice, it's real injustice, instead of fake injustice. They could also talk about Julian Assange too, but they don't. No, they only care. They only care when it comes to making themselves into victims. They charged into the Capitol building. They did the crime. They worked with people in the administration, and they should do the time. And more people need to get arrested for this as well. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene said one more thing that I thought was ridiculous but very telling. She described these men as, quote, prisoners of war and political prisoners. So, oh look, political prisoners, whatever, right? Prisoner of war? What are you talking about? What war? You actually have to be at war to be a prisoner of war. Who are you at war with? Who are you at war with? Are you admitting that you and your friends are at war with America? Because it sure seems that way. Thank you. Thank you for finally admitting it, you piece of un-American trash. Speaking of un-American trash, we got more Capitol rioters. War with democracy. That's another good point. War against facts, too. They hate facts. War against info. So many wars that Republicans are engaged in. So she admits that they wanted war with the United States. Exactly why I pointed that out. I was like, wait a minute. Why would you call them prisoners of war? Interesting. All right. An alleged Capitol rioter, now wanted by the FBI, has fled the country to Belarus and is now seeking asylum, completing the conservative circle of irony. The country's apparently right-wing state media reported on Monday that Evan Newman is seeking asylum in the country. And of course, the interview has not come out yet, but so far we've gotten some snippets of it. And basically they present him as just a normal American man whose shops was burned by Black Lives Matter activists. Now, the FBI, as I mentioned, wants Newman on charges of violent entry, disorderly conduct in the Capitol grounds, as well as for assault, resisting and obstructing law enforcement during civil disorder. So fairly serious charges, right? Now, he's like, oh no, I'm gonna nope out of here. I'm gone. I'm gonna go to Belarus. So now both Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and his ally Vladimir Putin have frequently referenced the Capitol riot, calling the prosecution of those involved an example of double standards. Perhaps, but they are ones to talk. All of those regimes have some double standards. For example, last year, mass protests broke out across Belarus over an alleged rigged election. Thousands of demonstrators ended up being brutally beaten by police and arrested. Many said that they were tortured in prison, which isn't happening to the Capitol rioters. Now, there is also a possibility, I don't know for sure, but there is a possibility that, since he's been leader of Belarus since 1994, that Lukashenko may have rigged a few elections, possibly. And so I'm not surprised, given that context, that, they would take in a fellow chud. In an expert of Newman's interview, excerpt, the Belarusian state television presenter said Newman sought justice and asked uncomfortable questions after the 2020 U.S. elections. The 48-year-old said that he lost everything and is being persecuted by the U.S. government. So you can definitely tell what side state media and Belarus is on. Now, so what he did is he went, obviously tried to, invade the Capitol building to help Donald Trump overturn the election, an election that was legitimate. Afterwards, decided to run, at the advice of his lawyer, by the way, first to Ukraine. Now, that didn't quite work out for him. Newman said Ukrainian security service agents had started pursuing him. So then he had crossed into Belarus on foot through the Ukrainian swamps of Pripyat near Chernobyl and claimed to have encountered snakes and wild boars on the journey. If only he had an AR-15 to defend himself against the the 15 to 30 wild boars. But there it is. The most ironic fucking thing I've read today. This guy, right-winger, flees his country of origin after trying to stage an insurrection, travels an enormous distance through dangerous territory to sneak into another country through their border in order to claim asylum. This man is on the side of immigrants and asylum seekers are bad. We should build a wall. Again, that was Trump. That's the candidate that he supported. We should build walls because immigrants bad. No self-awareness whatsoever with these people. Unless, of course, it involves them. Refugee treatment for me, but not for thee. And this is happening, by the way, during a pretty tense migrant crisis, pitting Belarus, who has been pushing migrants into Poland. Poland, of course, went super hard right on immigration. And all that, and the EU has been going after Belarus for sanctions, and so it's a gigantic mess. And you've got, unfortunately, refugees and migrants from places like Iraq and them caught in the middle. And this Capitol rioter sees what's going on and says, "Let me just slip in." Oh yeah. And Newman was welcomed by the Belarusian ruling party because they're all right wingers who hate America. So I guess he gets his wish. He gets to stay in a country that despises the left and supports right-wing authoritarian fascists. I guess, well done. There's a win. Let me just note, too, that, by the way, Poland, their response to the migrants is abhorrent. And Belarus, using migrants as a political weapon, is also absolutely abhorrent. You have both sides in this situation that are playing games with people's lives, and it's just absolutely gross. Terrible to see. I think a Michigan doctor was deported after Trump won. He was on the news saying he voted Trump. I guess ICE just detained him. I haven't found an update yet. Well, thank you. I'll have to look into that. Appreciate that. Starting Park Racing over on our Twitch channel. All right. Let's do a couple more stories here. We got Fartgate coming up. That's the last story. It's just fun. And then before we do that, though, go to Papa John.
I would just say, stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come. Stay tuned.
It has come. The day of reckoning promised by the former CEO of Papa John's arrived. Right. John Schnatter is back after being fired for saying racist things during a conference call. And the guy's been training for this day for almost 2 years. How? What's his marathon secret? He has eaten 800 pizzas in 18 months. Jesus Christ. That is unfortunately a lot of pizza.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
I mean, look, I love pizza, But a man has to have a limit. Okay, and that's a lot of pizza. So now apparently, according to him, there's a method to his madness, and because he says, well, I've been eating all this pizza because the pizzas just, they're not the same. They're not the same. In fact, he thinks that CEO Rob Lynch and other executives, as well as the progressive left, are to blame for the pizzas not being that good. Now, let me just be clear here. I love pizza, but I've only had one Papa John's pizza in my entire life, and I was not impressed. It sucked. And this was, by the way, before new ownership. I haven't eaten Papa John's since because it was, again, disgusting. A waste of time. A waste of money, by the way. And so now John Shatter says, well, after I left, the pizzas were even worse. In fact, some were burnt, some were undercooked, and it's not the first time either. No, it's the way they're putting the pizza together, he says, it's just not fundamentally sound. Hey, look, how hard is it to put together a pizza? You got sauce, you got the crust, okay, and then you get the sauce, you get the cheese, you got the toppings. This is not rocket science. Okay, this is not. I understand there's a little bit of an art to food as somebody who likes to make my own food, it's really difficult to mess up a pizza. I'm just saying. It's not that hard. But no, apparently they're putting the pizzas together wrong. It's not the same pizza. Just stop, please. Just, John, please stop. Please. No. But now, again, the thing is that he claims is it's not just the CEO, but it's the progressive left that has conspired to make his pizzas worse. No, that is not what made your pizzas suck. Your pizzas suck because, well, the ingredients probably suck, and you generally don't pay people enough to make good pizza. I mean, this is what happens when you skimp out, you cut corners, and you pay your people like crap. That's how pizzas suck. Okay, that's how you can make a sucky pizza. Look, if anything, I would love for there to be a conspiracy to make food taste better with better ingredients. Oh, I know, right? Crazy. Now, he also alleged, Mr. Schnatter did, that laundry service, I hope I'm reading that right. It could be laundry, apparently. The PR firm, which worked with him at the time of his resignation as CEO of Papa John's, was responsible because the owner, Casey Wasserman, was a Democrat donor. Oh, it's the Democrats. Let me just tell you a little bit about Democrat donors, okay? They're generally pretty conservative when it comes to economic issues. The difference here is on social issues, okay? And so generally, you're going to have pro-business, pro-corporate Democrats that are big donors. I don't see why she would conspire to take down John Schnatter. It doesn't make any sense to me, but of course it's conspiracy theories, right? She apparently refused to comment to Bloomberg about this. He went on to saying, I was a hometown hero. Somewhere between the store 1000 and store 2000, I became a bad guy, said Mr. Schnatter, who was taking both laundry service and Papa John's to court with accusations they conspired against him. Papa John's founder, who was sponsoring the NFL at the time, was revealed to have informed shareholders and executives that the league, quote-unquote, hurt his firm because it had not responded to a furor around players taking the knee as a stand against racism. Well, I mean, look, this all the way, goes back to Colin Kaepernick and the Take a Knee protests, which got needlessly, politicized. Doesn't matter. He didn't like it anyway. And of course, that's because John Schnatter is racist. He resigned as CEO, but another call was heard saying that NFL players were, quote, all on steroids or pot, and that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was going to let them protest, and added, what bothers me is Colonel Sanders called blacks N-word, and I'm like, I've never used that word. You just did! You just used that word! How do you not know that? How did you not see that that happened? It was that forced him to resign. I mean, the fact that it's not obvious to him why the board fired him is exactly why the board should have fired him. Why he should not be the public face of the company in the first place. And yet he's taking these people to court because, you know, his feelings were hurt. And, oh no, I'm a victim of cancel culture. That's what, I'm the first victim of cancel culture. Please, let me win this court case because the Democrats conspired to get me kicked out of my job. These people don't stop, do they? They're just a nonstop, just nonsense and conspiracy theories that you see from this pepperoni brain, okay? Look, no, the reality is you got fired because of capitalism. It sucks. Deal with it. Isn't Papa John CEO a big game hunter? I'm not entirely sure, honestly. I don't know. Most demo donors are also called Republican donors. That's a fair point. Big ones? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, one more story for y'all, and we're gonna head out. All right, probably thinking Jimmy John's. Maybe. I don't pay enough attention to CEOs and what they do on their off time for fast food restaurants because I actually want to eat in places. But yeah, ugh. You know what also sucks? Jimmy John's. I've had their subs. They're not great. Sorry, they're not great. Pepperoni has too many brain cells. I don't know. I haven't specifically had a pepperoni take a IQ test, so I wouldn't quite know. All right. Anyway, last story. A new Fartgate scandal has erupted. I've got some of the juicy details. So it's been reported in different places that President Biden, when he was meeting with the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, and various other members of the royal family during a reception at the COP26 conference, supposed to be the climate change stuff. Well, according to some hearsay, as she spoke with Mr. Biden on Monday, it has been claimed that Camilla was surprised to hear the U.S. president break wind in an admission audible enough to make the Duchess blush. Quote, "It was long and loud and impossible to ignore." The Daily Mail on Sunday quoted a source as saying, Camilla hasn't stopped talking about it. Apparently, that had to have been impressive. Very, very impressive. Wow. The article mentions that the alleged flatulence came hours after Biden sought to bring in the U.S. out from the shadow of the Trump administration, apologizing for his predecessor's decision to pull out of the Paris Agreement. Well, you probably should have pulled out of the room. Just saying. Biden, a little bit of a serious note, Mr. Biden had already pledged to cut U.S. emissions by in half by 2030 in April, but on Monday issued a long-term plan for how to achieve net zero by 2050. So I guess you could say his promise on climate was nothing but hot air. Okay, seriously though. So look, the infrastructure bill that got passed on Friday. This is the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is a corporate handout bill. And look, yes, it's just like, oh, we've got some climate stuff in here. You know, we got charging stations and we got things like that. But it also invests in oil and gas and privatizes public assets. So it's not really that great of a bill. That's the corporate handout bill. Again, that's what literal coal baron Joe Manchin wanted. And, you know, Republicans couldn't wait to pass it. Corporations were salivating over this bill. Oh, couldn't wait. Now, according to the Repeat Project, the bill only provides nominal emissions cuts between now and 2030 compared to current policy. So what we need is some major emissions cuts. We should be doing a lot more on reducing our emissions, but I'm guessing, you know, judging on Biden's own lack of cutting his own emissions, he's not going to do a whole lot. Again, this would be a lot cooler because, you know, look, how American is it to fart on royalty? I mean, farting on monarchs is literally why how the country was founded, essentially, right? No, British Crown, you know, I fart in your general direction. Okay, we're not gonna take it anymore. You know what? America existed to get away from having to care about the royals. This obsession with royalty and decorum and being nice and whatever. No, I fart in your general direction on all of that. Probably would have been the most, you know, greatest thing that Joe Biden has done if, again, it weren't coupled with the downer news that we're going to have like nothing done when it comes to climate change in reality. So, you know, it'd be real cool if we had both this and climate change measures actually getting passed. But, you know, unfortunately, just like the gas, it's just going to evaporate. Fun. You know, I'll never forget, by the way, what my grandma said about farts. Because, like, the right wing is like, oh, this is evidence that Joe Biden is old and can't control himself. Well, I mean, look, my grandma did say, you know, when you get older, it just kind of slips out without you really noticing sometimes, you know, you just can't really help it. But, like, come on. People fart. It's what happens. Get over it. All right. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Let's raid into, let's see. We're going to do, I haven't done a surfs raid in a while, so let's go back and do that. So we're raid into the surfs, good channel, fun times. Lance will be a great host for you. So we'll do that. Thank you all. Please, by the way, remember to, you know, follow us on Twitch. We do a show, obviously, every day, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here. Normally, it's fun, so we do a lot of fun stories here, and you know, a lot of interesting stuff as well, and sometimes deep dives, fun stories. And so, please follow us, become a subscriber. You know, give some subs, bits, all that stuff is welcome. Hey, I'm Christina. By the way, congratulations for her getting 100 subs on one of her most recent streams. That's amazing. So congratulations to Christina. She's very awesome. Go follow her as well. All right. That said, love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See y'all tomorrow. Have a great evening.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
My parents
questions. Celebrate.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.